Down for an exclusive interview, she revealed a shocking truth that sent waves of disbelief across social media and the tabloids. Her words were like a hammer, striking.
It wasn't exactly the first date, but after a little time, how soon did you reach out? I know you called the next day. I didn't want to seem too eager, but I did call the next day. Honestly, if it were me, I'd probably be texting or calling right away as soon as I got in the Uber. For years, Kirk Frost has lived his life in the spotlight, especially as a big part of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. His personal life became a big part of the show, with his relationship with his wife, Rasheeda, often taking center stage. Their ups and downs kept viewers hooked, making their story a key part of the drama. Their love story was both beautiful and full of lessons, with the ups and downs of their marriage playing out in front of the cameras. But the real story, the one hidden beneath it all, was darker than anyone ever expected. The truth came out on a seemingly normal day, one that would change everything for everyone involved. Kirk's ex-wife, who had mostly stayed out of the spotlight, decided it was time to share her side of the story. In an exclusive interview, she revealed a shocking truth that left people in disbelief. Social media and the tabloids, her words were like a hammer striking the surface of a fragile world, shattering the illusion of the perfect family that had been sold to the public for years. In the interview, she claimed that Kirk had impregnated his stepdaughter, a truth so dark, so unimaginable, that it left viewers reeling in shock. The accusations were not just startling, they were life-altering for everyone involved. Kirk, a man who had appeared to be a loving husband and father, now found himself at the center of a storm that threatened to. Her words had the power to destroy his career and forever tarnish his image. Kirk's ex-wife didn't hold back as she described the betrayal that shattered her world. "He did something unforgivable," she said, her voice calm but full of pain. "It wasn't just a betrayal of me. It was a betrayal of his own family, the people who trusted him. What he did goes beyond anything I could have imagined." Her words stuck with those who heard them. How could something like this happen in a family? How could a man, a father, a husband, do something so terrible? The answers seemed buried, too deep to uncover. For years, Kirk Frost had lived his life under the public microscope, constantly in the spotlight as a key figure on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. His relationship with his wife, Rasheeda, was a central focus of the show, and their ups and downs were laid out for the world to see. Yet, beneath the surface of their televised life, there was a hidden truth, one that no one was prepared to face when it finally came to light. It was on an ordinary day, when no one expected anything out of the ordinary, that the bombshell was dropped. Kirk's ex-wife, a woman who had largely stayed out of the public eye for years, decided to step forward and tell her side of the story. For years, she had kept her pain and her truth buried, but now, she felt the time had come to speak out. In an exclusive interview, Kirk's ex-wife revealed a shocking truth that no one had anticipated. As she spoke, the weight of her words sent waves of disbelief and confusion across the public. She shared the deep betrayal that had shattered her life, a betrayal that went far beyond what anyone could have imagined. She didn't mince words when describing the events that led to her devastation, and the truth she revealed was as painful as it was eye-opening. "Kirk did something unforgivable," she said, her voice steady but tinged with quiet rage. "It wasn't just a betrayal of me. It was a betrayal of his own family, the people who trusted him, who believed in him. What he did goes beyond anything I could have ever imagined." Her words hung in the air, heavy and haunting. The idea that a man, a husband, a father, could do something so horrific was difficult for people to comprehend. How could a man who had built a public life around his family? "I don't even know if I should laugh or cry right now," she said, her voice a mixture of disbelief and frustration. "I thought I was walking into a masquerade ball, not this. I'm not here to take the blame for this. I'm out of here." She stood up, shaking her head, already knowing what was coming next. "I knew you were going to do this." Her words lingered in the air, heavy with the weight of betrayal. She wasn't just talking about herself. Her words were aimed at Kirk, whose actions had destroyed the trust between them, leaving a void that seemed impossible to fill. "Kirk did something unforgivable," she said, her tone quiet but firm, each word carrying the pain of years of broken promises. It wasn't just a betrayal of me. It was a betrayal of his own family. The people who trusted him. What he did. It goes beyond anything I could have ever imagined. The words were like a sharp blow, reverberating through the minds of those who listened. How could something like this happen within a family? How could a man, a father, a husband, do something so horrific, so unforgivable? The answers seemed buried deep, hidden under layers of shame and fear that no one had been able to break through. But as time passed, the truth, as it always does, found its way to the surface. And when it did, it was far more shocking than anyone had expected. In the interview, Kirk's ex-wife dropped another bombshell, one that left the public reeling. She claimed that Rasheeda, Kirk's wife, had known about the situation all along. The suggestion that Rasheeda had been aware of her husband's actions, even if only to some extent, was just as stunning as the revelation of Kirk's betrayal itself. How could Rasheeda, the woman who had been by Kirk's side through so much, have known anything, yet stayed silent? Rasheeda knew, the ex-wife said, her voice steady, though tinged with the pain of having to relive it all. Maybe not the full extent of what was going on, but she knew something wasn't right.
She chose to stay.
She chose to protect him, even when it was clear what he had done. The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. The idea that Rasheeda had somehow turned a blind eye, choosing to stand by her husband even after knowing something was off, left many questioning everything they thought they knew about the Frost family. How could she have stayed? How could she have chosen to protect him after all that had happened? The more people thought about it, the more confused they became. What was it that made her stay? Was it love? Fear? Or was it something else entirely? The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was a public spectacle. Their relationship, once a beloved example of love and commitment on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, was now a source of scandal and heartache. Fans who had watched Kirk and Rasheeda navigate their ups and downs, rooting for them as a couple, were now left with more questions than answers. Was any of it real? Or had they simply been playing a part for the cameras? As the layers of this story continued to unfold, the public's scrutiny only grew. Kirk, once seen as a family man and a reality TV favorite, now found himself at the center of a storm of criticism. His reputation, carefully crafted over years of public appearances, was now shattered. For Rasheeda, the emotional toll was just beginning. The questions, the doubts, and the pressure to make a decision weighed heavily on her. Would she continue to stand by her husband, or would she walk away from everything she had built with him? The question on everyone's mind was why. Why did Kirk do it? What had driven him to betray the trust of those closest to him in such an unforgivable way? Was it a moment of weakness, or was this something that had been building for a long time? Something that had been hidden under the surface, waiting for the right moment to explode? The answers, it seemed, were locked away inside Kirk, buried deep in a place he was unwilling to confront. Unless he chose to speak out and tell the truth, no one would ever truly understand what had driven him to make such a devastating choice. But even if he did speak, could the trust ever be rebuilt? Could any words be enough to undo the damage caused by his actions? In her interview, the ex-wife had set the stage for a dramatic unraveling, but there were still many pieces of the puzzle left to be uncovered. The public had heard the first shocking truth, but what was the full story? Why had Rasheeda stayed in a marriage so tainted by betrayal? What other secrets were lurking just beneath the surface? The truth was out there, but it would take time, perhaps years, to fully come to light. For now, all the world could do was watch as the Frost family tried to pick up the pieces of their broken lives. The scrutiny was intense, and the decisions that lay ahead would not be easy. For Kirk, Rasheeda, and their families, the journey was just beginning. The questions would continue to haunt them, and the pain of betrayal would be something they would carry with them for a long time. The world was watching, waiting for each new twist in the story. Would they survive this storm, or would the weight of the scandal be too much to bear?